Everyone assumes the Mary Celeste, the ship found empty with dinner still warm, was a shipwreck or a mutiny. But the vessel was perfectly seaworthy, fully stocked, and completely undamaged. Here's the thing about that warm dinner. It was never real. No plate of half-eaten food, no tea still steaming in a cup, no chairs pushed back in a hurry. That famous image comes from a young doctor named Arthur Conan Doyle. A year before, he dreamed up Sherlock Holmes, who spun a short story in 1884 and let half the world mistake it for fact. Tonight we sail back to the real ship and the real people who crewed her. New York Harbor, the autumn of 1872. The tar and the salt, the wet rope, the cold grey water slapping the pilings. A merchant brig loading her cargo for a long winter crossing. What actually happened out on that ocean is stranger and far quieter than any ghost story. And the truth was sitting in a courtroom in Gibraltar the whole time, written down in plain ink. Stay with me. Let the harbor rise slowly around you. On the 7th of November 1872, the Mary Celeste left New York, bound for Genoa on the far side of the Atlantic. In her hold sat 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, industrial spirit, not for drinking, meant for the wine trade of Italy. She was a brigantine of modest size, sturdy and freshly refitted, riding low with her cargo. 10 souls traveled with her: Captain Benjamin Briggs, 37 years old, his wife Sarah, their little daughter Sophia, just 2, and 7 crewmen, hand-picked, later described as peaceable, first-class sailors. Briggs was a devout man, careful, and no drinker at all. In a letter to his mother before sailing, he wrote that he was well satisfied with his ship and his crew. Picture that harbor morning, the grey water, the creak of new rope, the last barrels swaying down into the dark hold. An ordinary departure. She was not cursed. She was not haunted. She was a job of work, floating. The ship had a whole life long before that voyage. She was built in Nova Scotia, in a small place called Spencer's Island, and launched in 1861 under a different name, Amazon, flying British colours. Her early years were unlucky. Her first captain fell ill and died soon after her maiden run. She collided with another vessel in the English Channel. A storm once drove her ashore and damaged her badly enough that her owners sold her off as a wreck. Then, in 1868, American hands rebuilt her, lengthened her, gave her a second deck, and a new name to match her new life, Mary Celeste. For 4 quiet years, she sailed without trouble. By the autumn of 1872, she had just come through a $10,000 refit, longer and stronger than before. You can almost smell the fresh pitch and sawdust on her timbers. A working ship, remade, ready for one more crossing. The Atlantic had already tried to be rid of her more than once, and failed. Step into the cabin for a moment. This was not a voyage of strangers. Briggs had brought his family aboard because he meant to be gone for months, and the sea was his whole life. Sarah kept a small melodeon, a little reed organ, and played it in the evenings. There was a sewing machine below deck and a child's things tucked among the captain's books. A pipe. Ordinary domestic life folded into a wooden world barely 100 feet long. Briggs left his young son behind in Massachusetts to keep at his schooling. Think of that quiet arithmetic of a sailing family who comes, who stays, who waits at home for letters. None of this belongs in a ghost story, and that is exactly the point. The people on the Mary Celeste were not phantoms. They were a father, a mother, a small girl, and 7 men who knew their trade. Down in that small wooden world, a kettle, a cradle, a stack of charts, the ordinary furniture of a life at sea. Now lift up and see the whole Atlantic. A single small ship crossing a great grey plain of water, aiming for the Azores and then the Mediterranean beyond. 8 days behind her, another brig followed almost the same line. The Dei Gratia, out of New York for Gibraltar, her captain a man named David Morehouse. Some say Morehouse and Briggs knew one another, and perhaps even dined together before sailing, though the only source for that is a memory written down 50 years later, so we hold it lightly. Two ships then, threading the same cold current, a week apart. The Mary Celeste met rough weather for much of the way. Winter winds, heavy seas, the kind of crossing that tests rope and nerve, but that a good crew simply endures. For more than 2 weeks, she pressed east. Below them both, miles of black water, patient and without opinion. And then, near the Azores, the record grows quiet. Here is where the real mystery begins, and it is nothing like the story you were told. The last entry in the ship's log was written on the 25th of November. It placed the Mary Celeste just a few miles from the island of Santa Maria in the Azores. And it was utterly ordinary: position, weather, the day's slow progress. No fear in it, no struggle, no final desperate line. Just a captain noting where his ship was, as he had done every single day. Then 9 days of silence, 9 days in which no one wrote another word. When the ship was finally found, she had drifted hundreds of miles past that last position, entirely alone. Somewhere in that gap of calm handwriting and empty ocean, 10 people stepped off a sound ship and were never seen again. Hold that gap in your mind, 9 days of nothing in a hand that never once sounded afraid. Somewhere in that silence, a decision was made. On the 4th of December, the lookout on the Dei Gratia saw a sail moving strangely on the horizon. As they closed, Morehouse recognized her, the Mary Celeste, yawing, half-rigged, with no hand at the wheel. His first mate, Oliver DeVoe, was rowed across and climbed aboard. And here is what he did not find. No steaming supper, no tea still warm in the cups, no meal abandoned mid-bite. That vivid picture simply was not there. What he found instead was a wet, disordered, but seaworthy ship. The cargo, all 1,700 barrels, sat almost untouched. Food and fresh water enough for 6 months remained in the stores. The crew's clothes, the captain's belongings, Sarah's things, all still in place. There was water in the hold, more than 3 feet of it, but nowhere near enough to sink her. The ship was fine, only the people were gone. DeVoe walked those tilting decks alone, calling out, and no voice came back. From above, the clue is a small absence. The ship's single lifeboat, a yawl, was missing. So were the captain's navigation instruments and most of the ship's papers, though the log itself remained. One of the pumps had been taken apart. A rope, the main halyard, hung frayed and trailing over the side. None of it points to violence. There was no blood that stood up to testing, no sign of fire, no wreckage of a fight. Everything suggested something calmer and somehow more chilling, an orderly departure. People do not tidy their belongings before pirates. They do not leave months of food behind in a mutiny and then abandon a ship that still floats. Whatever happened, the crew chose to leave, believing, it seems, that they had good reason. And they climbed down into a small open boat on a wide and rising sea. One small boat, 10 people, and the grey horizon closing around them. So why would a careful captain abandon a sound ship? The likeliest answer is quiet and painfully human. Briggs was carrying volatile alcohol, and 9 of the barrels, made of a more porous red oak, were later found empty. Their contents leaked away as vapor. Some researchers believe fumes built up below, and that a sudden rumble or a small venting of gas convinced Briggs the cargo might explode. Others point to the broken pump. With the hold packed tight, he may have had no way to measure the water rising inside her and feared wrongly that she was sinking. Sensing land just miles off, he may have ordered everyone into the yawl, tethered to the ship by that halyard, meaning to wait and then return once the danger passed. It is a decision that would have felt reasonable in the moment. That is what makes it so hard to bear. No panic in that arithmetic, only a father doing the sum and getting it wrong. And this is where the legend and the truth part ways for good. There was no warm dinner because there was no sudden flight from the table. The evidence, the calm log, the tidy cabin, the missing boat, tells of minutes of careful preparation, not seconds of terror. The steaming plates, the half-drunk tea, the ship found in flawless order. All of it was born decades later in a magazine story, and it stuck because it was far more thrilling than the truth. Picture instead the real last page of that log, the ink long dry, an ordinary morning position written by a steady hand 9 days before anyone knew to look. No warning, no drama, just the small, faithful record of a working ship. The most famous detail of the whole affair is the one thing that never happened. The Mary Celeste was sailed into Gibraltar, and the whole strange business went before a salvage court. There, an attorney named Frederick Solly Flood convinced himself a crime had been done. Drunken mutiny, murder, stains on a sword he swore were blood. The tests came back. Rust, not blood. No evidence of foul play could be found at all. In the end, the court simply awarded the finders their salvage, a modest sum, and sent the ship back to sea. She sailed on for years under new owners, carrying her odd fame with her until 1885, when a captain deliberately ran her onto a reef off Haiti in a clumsy insurance fraud. The court records, the mate's testimony, the calm last log, the real story was all there, written down, dull and precise. But the world had already decided it preferred the ghost. The paper trail was honest, the public simply wanted a haunting. And so the truth drifted, while the legend sailed on. In 1884, a young doctor named Arthur Conan Doyle, a year before he invented Sherlock Holmes, wrote a short story about a ship he called the Mary Celeste. Found in perfect order, its people vanished as if mid-breath. He meant it as fiction. Readers took it as fact. He even got the ship's name wrong, and that misspelling clings to her still. Out on the reef off Haiti, her timbers are long gone now, dissolved into warm, shallow water. What remains is only this: a real family, a real crew, and a choice made on a grey morning that we will likely never fully understand. The sea kept the crew, not the ship. Everything else, the warm dinner, the untouched meal, the perfect silence, we added ourselves because the truth was too quiet to frighten us. The legend was thrilling, the truth was tender, and people, then as now, reached for the thrill. So the next time you hear it, the ship found empty with dinner still warm, remember there was no dinner. There were no steaming plates, no interrupted meal, no seat still warm. There was only a seaworthy ship, fully stocked and undamaged, drifting slowly under an indifferent winter sky. Only a logbook that ended in calm. Only a small boat lowered onto a rising sea, and an ocean that would answer nothing, then or ever. The Mary Celeste still floats through our imagination exactly as she floated that December morning, intact, unharmed, and completely empty. She never needed a sea monster, she never needed a mutiny. The quiet was enough.